Feel Good Friday, I normally do the live on Insta. Before I actually start maybe alternative in 1 week on wherever, Telegram, Insta and YouTube, and kind of go between. And today I thought there's this thing I really wanted to show you yesterday on Insta and talk about this, and a little extract from the book that's probably too long for me to share. So I wanted to read you an extract from The Goddess Never Ages by Dr. Christian Northrop, and the word about depression. So, Feel Good Friday, you may not be feeling good. I'm in a lot of pain this morning. I woke up like I was battling God knows what, or lifting weights in my sleep, in my other realm sleep patterns. I could understand it if I'd actually been to boot camp yesterday. I feel as though did too much weights and pulled a muscle. So I've been doing a little exercise, which actually you can do to move. But magic balm, tiger balm on my back. So that's helping me. And my little babies are cuddled up with my fur babies, resting, and lots of fluid. But I think lots of people right now have got physical things coming, or physical things are showing up for you. Possibly, not everyone, and I don't want you to manifest that, but possibly because we're being told, like, take a step back, rest. I had an incident where I stubbed my toe and cut all my foot a while back, and to me it's like, stop. There's something, a direction you're going that's not right. So slow down. Now, I was asked to do a task recently, and I'd done this task many times. We do it in our workshops, about timelines. And in talking to my friends about this, we were sort of saying it's almost like we have already felt like there's timeline splits. Like, we look back at our own timelines, we're talking to our past 16-year-old self, which is what I ended up doing in mine, doing this exercise. I look at what I've achieved at 16, or even at 12 years old. I was making a statement and kind of to the police, and not wanting what had happened to me to happen to my friends, and seeing the pattern. So seeing an emerging pattern of wanting to help others and wanting my trauma to serve in some way, even at 11. I know, that says 47-year-old me now. I look back and realise that I transcended a lot of those quite early, and picked up wonderful tools to help me personally, with having mum that had, at that point, maybe not so much then, but there was definitely mental health issues that was happening. And obviously this is it's out in the news now, and not that I watch the news, but I know that it's rampant. But I also know, but because of the awakening that's happening, when you open yourself up to your multidimensionality, it's hard to understand. For me, I was constantly going to like, is this psychic ability? Is this like when things were coming through? Because it's hard to comprehend what's happening. But the difference is when you're questioning it and you're wanting to seek answers. And that was me. That was the side of me that was always wanting to understand why and what is the depression about. And depression is a similar thing to stubbing the toe. Esoterically, it's as though your body is sort of going, you need to stop, you need to unpack stuff and allow yourself to go through the processes of understanding and shift that stuck energy. On a physical level, of course, the doctors, I remember I had an amazing doctor at 16, I think, when I first mentioned about it, didn't put me on tablets, which lots of doctors would do. He said about exercise and movement because he understood this. So I would like to read this to you in reference to how to feel good if you're maybe not getting it, not feeling it, if you like. A word about depression. Depression involves brain chemistry and neurotransmitters, which can be affected in many ways, such as through regular exercise. While you may decide you want to take an antidepressant to affect your brain chemistry and depression, keep in mind that pharmaceutical drugs used to treat depression and anxiety should be an adjunction to, not a replacement for. Working through your emotions and developing new habits of mind and body as part of a healing process. Even if being positive and optimistic is difficult for you, make an effort to develop habits that support a positive mood and push yourself to make the changes you know you need to make. Depression can be a symptom of blood sugar instability, a sign of feeling disconnected from the divine, or even an indication that your vitamin D levels are low. So sun would be the things that need to do with that. All or all three. So make sure you get your vitamin D levels up. It can also be a sign that you're avoiding a difficult decision, such as leaving a bad marriage or working situation. Staying in that situation will only make it harder to keep your mood positive or and to live agelessly. That said, if your symptoms of depression and lethargy are severe, you need to get very serious about addressing the issue. Don't delay in getting help for a medical professional, and please know that medication for psychiatric problems can be a lifesaver, and it's really important that you learn and a professional can help you decipher that. That is not my expertise, but hopefully this advice will point you in the right direction. So I feel it's my due diligence to point that out, as well as what they're saying here. Please know that medication for psychiatric problems can be a lifesaver. If you need it, do not hesitate to take it. Bless it and stay on it. So be thankful for it and the amazing things that can actually help. And most importantly, do something, anything, to begin the process of recovery. Clean a drawer, sweep your front step, volunteer at an animal shelter. My colleague Bob Coolin says that creativity is the cure for depression. I completely agree. Sadness is meant to alert you to the need to grieve a loss and also take better care of yourself. It is not supposed to be a chronic condition. Your natural state of being is joyfulness. Recovery from depression is possible. I'm a living, breathing example. Now, you may not think it if I come across all positive. It's possible if you're simply willing to get moving in some way. It's that shift. It's like the stuckness. That's what I mean. And on an esoterical level, it is stuck energy, physically stuck energy. And that's why it's showing up for you to clear it. So true self-care. I'd like to continue to read this as well, because it leads into something that we've been talking about, of having pleasure and joy for this month of Scorpio. So I've already touched on the notion of what we deserve, and we often do the deservability thing. We've been doing that in our daily practices for the last few months, which is from Louise L. Hay, the deservability prayer, if you like, or affirmation. So you can check into any of those videos if you're feeling like you don't deserve that. Okay, you do. I'm telling you, you do. So be forewarned that the guilt and shame of millennia will hit you between the eyes once you open to pleasure. You may start to wonder if you're selfish or self-centered for wanting to have more joy in your life and indulge your desires. Fear of being selfish is embedded in our language. Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back. Don't toot your own horn. Don't get too big for your britches. You'll get a swelled head. Are you afraid people will think you're full of yourself? 1 in 5 people in generally narcissistic. These people take up all the oxygen in the room. satisfying their own desires at the expense of others and blame problems on everyone else. They have an abyss inside that no amount of love or caring from others can fill, and they tend to be surrounded by those who overgive. If you have one of these individuals in your life, please know that it's neither possible nor even desirable to try to fill that abyss for him or her. You have to overcome the habit of chronic overgiving in order to bring balance into your life and live lives of those around you. If you're always worried about others' feelings, you may be overly empathic, excessively self-sacrificing, and badly in need of more self-nurturing. As Amanda Owen, author of The Power of Receiving in 2010, writes, those who have trouble giving attract those who have trouble receiving. And if you're concerned that you may be turning into a narcissist, that means you are not one. Believe me, narcissists do not reflect on how other people perceive them or on their own feelings. Self-sacrificing is the shadow of self-centeredness. So we reflect, don't we? And it brings into our lives those people to show up where those patterns are so we can shift out of them. And we're shifting out of patterns big time at the moment. So self-sacrificing is the shadow of self-centeredness. The desire to draw attention to yourself by becoming a martyr is supported by a domineering culture that benefits from women who are constantly giving to others in order to gain social approval. And we all know how difficult it is to be around martyrs who try to make us feel guilty and who get angry if we don't constantly notice how much they are doing for the benefit of others. When you give too much, you enter a state of imbalance. Then the pleasure gets stuck out of your life. It's sucked out, literally out of your life, and your experience is chronic resentment. That too often leads to disease. And I've seen this in people around me, and it's not nice because you can't, then you don't want to be around that. Who wants to be around that? And if you see some of that reflecting in you, you might be, this is obviously, you're going to get extremes of that and lesser extremes of that in people, and we are all a reflection of each other. So we'll all have some certain aspects of this where we might give too much or we're more self-centered, but it's understanding where those imbalances are and trying to shift out of them will create understanding so we can move into pleasure. And you might be thinking why, but just listen. So where did I get to? Feeling guilty. Oh gosh, I've lost my space. Martyrs. Oh gosh, hang on, I've just gone back by mistake. Leads to disease. To be an ageless goddess, figure out what makes you feel joy and then let go of the guilt. So letting go of your guilt is this task for this Friday, to let go of the guilty pleasures. What are they? Are they reading books? Is it a nice bar of decent chocolate, not the sugary stuff that's going to cause more of these problems, but decent quality chocolate, or cacao, ceremonial cacao would be some of my things to add into there. Joy, then let go of the guilt. Consider a discipline of pleasure to be an investment in your health. A joyful heart and body that experiences pleasure and nurturing are your most reliable health insurance. The late Peter Calhoun, for a former Episcopal priest, if I'm saying that right, the dyslexia, turned shaman, pointed out that All native cultures have known that healing happens through regular primal experiences of pleasure and ecstasy in the body, not through the intellect. 5 minutes spent dancing in your kitchen to a song you love, or petting your dog or cat who offers you unconditional love, can make a difference if you do it often enough. Any pleasure can be yours if you own it. I like tour those charity showcase houses where they have designer recordings every room of some gorgeous mansion, and appreciate the authentics. I used to find it hard to imagine myself being comfortable in such a house. They seemed too grand for me. Even just walking through them made me feel a bit of an intruder. I could never afford to live there. Who was I kidding? Now I walk in as if I own the place. I'll take the card of a celebrity guy. Why not imagine ways in which I could achieve pleasure, whether it's redesigning my kitchen or enjoying someone else's designer bedroom on display. Kids make believe all the time, but as adults, we've been taught to feel self-conscious about exercising one of our biggest sources of pleasure, imagination. Now, you know how big I am on imagination and visualization. Your body doesn't know the difference. The pleasure center in your brain don't know that you don't actually own the hot tub or the hotel when you lower yourself into it. They don't know that the painting on the wall at an art museum isn't yours to keep. So that's something you could do. Wandering around a gallery would be a really lovely thing to do. You look at that art and just feeling the pleasure of looking. So if you like art, if that's something that gets to you, that lights you up like it does me, that would be one I would certainly enjoy. But the bubble bath at home, and when you're on holiday in the hotel room, imagining you can have that every day, just enjoyment, being in the moment with it, really tuning into the emotion of that, because that's going to tap into your emotional body, the field of that, the euphoric grid of your emotional field linked. In Italy's public art is treasured by people of all social classes, even those who are struggling financially, own the art that's the legacy of their people. The Italians are on to something. Think about all those movies where some pleasured deprived American or English woman goes to Italy and loses herself in the luxury of the authentic and sensual pleasure, which then attracts a man she's choosing to enjoy or not, depending on her mood. Eat, Pray, Love, Enchanted April, Under Tuscan Sun, Summertime, A Room with a View. All those movies demonstrate the importance of slowing down to take time for pleasure. The Greeks understood this too. Check out the movie Shirley Valentine, about a British woman in a, I remember that movie, in a certified marriage, who finds pleasure again by vacationing in Greece alone and reconnecting to herself. She makes a brave move in delving herself to her own pleasure, devoting herself to her own pleasure, which also ends up saving her marriage. We all need to remember the quiet, relaxing joy of being with others, taking in a beautiful view and sharing good food, laughter, and conversation. If someone in the group is a conundrum, mentally cast her as a character in your story of pleasure. Maybe she's the Maggie Smith character who dries wit you can enjoy without taking her comments too seriously. Smile at the predictability of that person's compliments, but don't take it any depressive energy. And dance. goddesses move their bodies. Every indigenous culture has used dance to celebrate life. We heal through dance, movement, sound, and tears. Eva Ensela, author of the Vagina Monologues, ushers in Valentine's Day in 2013 with a global movement called 1 Billion Rising, a call for people around the world to celebrate the resilience and the life force of women who have been sexually abused. Approximately 1 billion women, by getting up from their chairs and spending a few minutes in joyous dance. There's a time for grief, but then we have a dance. Many women love to dance but don't. Why do we deny ourselves a dance in your living room, which is in its exact feng shui center of my home? Feng shui, in the Chinese art of pleasure, enhances the flow of life force in space. For more than 30 years, the space was used only during the holidays, so most of the time it was essentially empty of life. Then I removed all the furniture so I could use the room, which has a hardwood floor, as a dance or yoga studio. Now I use it regularly. One year I threw a tango party, an anniversary of 9/11, to celebrate the people who survived and helped each other as well as those who were lost. One of the men who attended told me afterwards, his voice cracking, that his brother had died in the September 11, 2001 attack, which I'd not known about. He said softly, "I really needed this." So it makes me quite emotional release, and gave me a big hug, because I can feel her energy when she's writing the book then. What better way to celebrate the memory of those who have died than to joy in close embrace, dancing to beautiful music with another human being? You can do this too. Open your home, your heart, and your front living room. Life isn't meant to be lived with plastic covers on the couches or vows of grief dampening your spirits. Commit this to memory. Experience pleasure is critical for vibrant health. It is not selfish. It's a gift to yourself and to the people around you. Your joy gives them permission to experience joy too. It creates an ever broadening circle of celebration and joy, and spreads out from you in waves, lifting up everyone. So the exercise that Dr. Christian, or for pleasure, she gives is, think back to 2 or 3 moments in your life when you experienced peak pleasure. So do that if you can, maybe do it later. Take some time to recall these moments in exquisite detail. Recenter the smells, the sounds, the sensory details, the emotional experiences you had. Regenerate the feeling and relive every tasty moment. The body makes no distinction between the actual event and what you're imagining. So in recreating these moments, you alter the biochemistry and release nitrous oxide, endorphins, and serotonin that stimulate circulation and cellular repair. So it helps you heal, the Wei Qi. Often we forget how to take pleasure in simple things and are reminded of enjoyment only in contrast to an unpleasant experience. As a teen, she went on a canoe trip in the spring and accidentally overturned the canoe. Had to spend the rest of the trip soaking wet and freezing. We finally got to the hotel where she could take a bath, hot bath, and to this day she remembers the comfort of the bath, in sharp contrast to the bone marrow deep cold I had experienced leading up to that moment of warmth. It if everything weren't pleasurable, you'd get bored and stop enjoying the simple delights of life, such as being dry, warm, and comfortable. Think back to a time when the contrast between displeasure and the pleasure created afterwards was a powerful for you relief. That moment in this way, you can train yourself not to be jaded and learn to truly draw pleasure from small moments. Laugh and lighten up. I feel like I want to read that one as well, but I just want to add. So I remember two things that's brought up for me is one, when I was very small, going, my friend was moving house and we stayed behind while the van went off with all the stuff, and there wasn't much left in the house, but it was cold because there was no heating on it. Don't know what time of year it was, but we kept going outside where it was colder to come inside because it felt warmer because of that contrast, and we kept doing it because then we felt warm because we'd gone out in the cold. And it's that reminder that triggered this, that actually sometimes we go back to these pleasure pain gets switched as well, and we go back to things that give us displeasure because there's a shift. You don't do things unless you get something out of it. So also, one of the things that I'd like to add to this is, if there's a pattern, the cat keeps giving me love bites. If there's a pattern, and you may not like that pattern, but somewhere in the back of your mind, in your subconscious, that pattern gives you an outcome that is something that you want. It may be as simple as a child playing up gets the attention of the mum, then they have what they wanted, that attention, maybe for the wrong reasons. But your subconscious does the same in the patterns that you are releasing. So I'm going to read this last bit and I'll leave it at that because that's more than I wanted to share for today. But laugh and lighten up. And this was the main thing that I wanted to share. So I'll probably go over this little bit on Easter as well as a smaller extract. But laughter has many proven benefits, including reducing inflammation, lower blood pressure, great immunity, improved memory and circulation, and better blood oxygenation. Laughter also reduces pain by increasing your beta endorphins, which are feel-good neurotransmitters. My motto is that anything worth taking seriously is worth making fun of. One evening, many years back, when I was studying the harp, I was helping a fellow harpist in our harp ensemble at the Cleveland Institute for Music, moved her instrument out of the retirement home where our ensemble had played for the residents. As we carried the ungainly harp down a hallway, I overheard an older woman say to another, "It was a good day, nobody fell." I burst into laughter and had to put my end of the harp on the ground. I managed to catch my breath long enough to say to my friend, "When my definition of a good day is when nobody falls, it's probably a good time for you to help me check out." My friend was horrified by my dark humor, but I really believe that when you lose your sense of humor, you lose your vitality. At that point, you're just waiting for the end to come. Deep laughter from the belly floods you with nitric oxide. Buddhists has the laughing Buddha to remind us of the healing, life-affirming nature of laughter. I wish more spiritual traditions would help us lighten up. Just because something is meaningful doesn't mean it can't be screamingly funny. Laugh and have fun. When you open up to receiving pleasure, it comes to you. Don't be afraid to lighten up your to-do list and put pleasure at the top of it. Laughter is also what the guides said. Laughter can actually kill some beings in our universe. It's such a high frequency that it just would Wipe them off the face of the earth. That's how powerful it is, according to the esoteric teachings of some. However, it's also what we're told to do. Laugh, humans, laugh, was what Matthias was told in one of the temples. When you laugh, you raise your frequency naturally, you raise your vibration, but you also, as stated there, you release better blood flow, oxygenation. Laughter also reduces pain by increasing your beta endorphins. Now, I'm a fan of Louise L. Hay, and in the book You Can Heal Your Life, she talks about another book by a guy that laughed himself happy, then got another disease, and then laughed himself free of that as well. It's the healing frequency: laughter, joy, happiness, love. So powerful, and we study it. Even science is telling us so. But Feel Good Friday, do something that will make you laugh. Thank you for listening, and thank you to Dr. Northrup for her amazing wisdom. I know that lots of people have not been very kind to her because she spoke her truth with gutso and from the heart at a time when they didn't want to hear or discern for themselves. I think we all need to discern for ourselves, but I think this book is very valuable and her wealth of knowledge is very valuable. I am not a what's the word when you sell things? I'm not trying to sell it. I just speak from the heart about the things that have helped me, and I'm loving this book and heard that and thought I would share it with you for our Feel Good Friday. So I hope you are having a wonderful time in your now moment, and if you're not having such a good time, think about what can you do to change that. Blessings. Thank you for watching. Please like and share this with anyone you think would it help.